Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from YourBlackWorld.com, and today you saw that there was this really crazy advertisement by Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew under this side project they have called Green Label, which I guess is used to appeal to a different demographic, whatever that is. And the ad, which we'll give you a link to the ad. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. It basically shows a white woman in a police lineup, and she's identifying amongst several suspects, all of whom are black except for a goat. And there's a lot of really crazy imagery in this ad, a lot of things that I found to be incredibly offensive. And we wrote about it on Your Black World, and I thought that you might want to hear from the horse's mouth, or maybe as Mountain Dew might say, the goat's mouth, because I guess they think black men and goats are kind of equivalent to each other. I'm not sure. But to talk about this in more detail, I wanted to bring in my partner in crime, my homegirl, Miss Yvette Carnell. How you doing today, Yvette?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'll tell you, with this ad, I got the link sent to me by Erica Gordon Taylor, who is with the Emmett Till family. She's the family representative, and they were actually doing a campaign that actually launched today, where they're boycotting Mountain Dew because Mountain Dew is sponsoring Lil Wayne on his tour, and this was after Lil Wayne presented the rap lyric where he compared Emmett Till's face to a woman's vagina after he had sex with her. And Lil Wayne has not apologized. He's been very disrespectful. And I just think that's atrocious. In fact, believe it or not, I don't know if I told you, I had a short conversation with LL Cool J about his controversy, the racial controversy he was in last week. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I gave him a lot of credit for was I said, I appreciate your sincerity and the fact that you care about your people and that you don't want, because there's one thing he did say, that he didn't want black people to feel that he didn't care about them. And I said, I give you more credit than I would give somebody like Lil Wayne, who doesn't seem to care what black people think. He's refused to apologize, even though everybody knows he was wrong. So, Yvette, when you saw this ad, it's funny. You sent me a message back. I'm not going to repeat what you said. This is PG-13. But, what was your reaction? I mean, describe, help me be eloquent about this. Because I think I'm still boiling over with disappointment and rage about this ad. So tell me what I saw and what was going on with this.
I mean, let's just paint the picture first. Let's just paint the picture of what we saw. There were a series of black men in this lineup, and they were some of the most horrid and thuggish looking people. One of them had a patch over his eye and a little scully thing on, and there was a lot of stuff going on in the lineup. And then you had this goat who was also in the lineup, who is sort of supposed to be the alter ego of the rapper Tyler, the Creator. And then you had the woman, this blonde woman who was, trying to pick the person or the goat out of the lineup, but the goat was like talking to her. And the goat basically seemed to at one point admit that he maybe had raped this woman, because he was like, you should have gave me some more. I'm nasty. And this is supposed to be something that just like, I guess, is funny to people. Maybe it's funny to black people, or maybe it's supposed to be something that is, gives white people something to laugh at, gives them some black people to laugh at. I don't know. But I just found the whole thing just disturbing, just the fact that, black people are kind of this whole minstrel, look at the black thugs, and then you have the rappers who kind of co-create this kind of image of black thugs, and they make money off of it, and Mountain Dew makes money off of it and sells more Mountain Dew, and then, the record companies make money off of it. Everybody does well except the black consumer, except the black person who has to deal with that image that's purported and pushed in media. So everybody else is doing fine. Tyler, the Creator, walks away with a check. Lil Wayne walks away with a check. Mountain Dew walks away with sales. Record companies walk away with a check. Everybody walks away with something except the black community. And that's just the way it is now. That's just what's happening.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad you described it as well as you did, because I gotten to the point where I'm literally mentally exhausted from processing this. I was literally dreaming about this when I went to sleep last night, because I simply couldn't believe that Mountain Dew would do something like this. And I give credit to Kirsten West Savali, who works over on another site, and she reached out and had told me actually a few months ago that Tyler, the Creator, had actually written a lyric where he said, and I'll just quote what he said in the lyric. We have grown-ups on the line here. He said, I'll rape a pregnant bitch and tell my friends I had a threesome. That's the kind of sickness that is being promoted within hip hop. And what's interesting to me, I mean, we're going to have ignorant people all over the country, all over the world. But, for Mountain Dew to tie themselves to this kind of message is really, really shocking. It's very disappointing. I think also that Mountain Dew needs to be very thoughtful about what they're doing here. With this imagery, what you're doing really is you are making a punchline out of what has been probably the greatest Holocaust in the black community since slavery. Mass incarceration has destroyed millions of black families. It has created a type of urban terrorism that makes it unsafe for little children to walk up and down the streets. This whole joke about, don't snitch on a player, snitches get stitches, that leads to people dying. There are crimes that are unsolved. People I know, this isn't just, something I've read about. Just last week, my daughter told me about someone very close to her who was murdered, a young father of 3, and they can't get any suspects because everybody knows snitches get stitches, and it's like this is real. This is not just a game. This is not something that's meant to be funny. And I think Mountain Dew owes the black community an apology over this. I mean, I'm just thinking that the people, the Emmett Till group that we're seeking to boycott Mountain Dew, they're working with Ultraviolet, the group that went after Reebok and Rick Ross. So they've got some weapons at their disposal. They've been very diligent on this. Erica Gordon Taylor especially has really pushed this. She's got change.org on board, a lot of organizations on board. I mean, I almost feel like they gave them a gift by releasing this kind of ignorant crap right when they were beginning their campaign. I mean, what do you think, Yvette? How do you think this is going to play out?
I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but what I'm more interested in is just the kind of mentality that undergirds this sort of thing. How is it that we've gotten to a point to where young black guys in hip hop can just, partner up with corporations, partner up with white corporations to make money, and the rest of us are just kind of like, well, leave that brother alone, he's making his dough. And I think part of that has to do with we've gotten to a point where we see hip hop as activism, as if that is political activism. Now, hip-hop is not activism. Activism is something that has shown over time the ability to move politics in a certain direction. That is change. That's the kind of change we're looking for with Obama, with any president. It's not about Obama, but with any president. Hip-hop is not change. Hip-hop may be the music of change. Hip-hop may be the art that reflects that sort of angst and that sort of anxiety in the urban or the black community, but it's not change. So the idea that, well, you can't criticize hip hop because that's change, but I mean because that's something else, that's really a movement, and that's movement music, and let those brothers do what they do. No, it's really not. And I don't even know how you can consider that art, because I remember when Eminem came out with his album and he had some misogynistic lyrics, I remember white women went crazy. I mean, there were boycotts, people were angry, women were upset, just the same way that white women boycotted outside Rick Ross's, New York Reebok office. That their flagship office was boycotted by a group. So when I look at that, I wonder why there's not more of an outcry in our community when we just have these sort of spectacles and displays of foolishness just so that these young guys can get a check. I mean, how does that benefit the black community that Lil Wayne got a check? How does the black community benefited because Tyler the Creator got a check from Mountain Dew? That doesn't have anything to do with whether or not we should speak up about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with you, Yvette. I mean, I think that, when you talk about hip hop being activism, the fact is hip hop, I believe is powerful, and it certainly can be, when used appropriately, it can be a fuel for activism. It could have been the music behind a movement, just like you had in the 1960s, with certain artists like James Brown saying, "I'm black and I'm proud." I think that inspired people to certain types of action that they wouldn't have committed to otherwise. And you go back, Chuck D and guys like that, were lending their hip hop voice to the push for change. Now, hip hop has really been co-opted. I think Scarface, even of all people, said that, hip hop is now owned by white people. And, you know, and the interesting thing to me is, I go back to this when I had, the debate with, Michael Eric Dyson, a guy that I really respect. I consider him a friend. We debated at Brown University over hip hop. And I remember one of the things that he kept going back to was, creative expression, that they should have freedom of creative expression. And that protects them from offensive or abusive or hurtful language. And I think that makes sense to a point. But the problem is that when you have a corporation, a big white corporation who knows nothing about your community, telling you what you need to rap about, telling you we need more music for the bitches, we need more stuff that's going to pop off in the club, we need some old gangster shit, we need you to talk about killing some dudes or whatever. When they're telling you what to say, then that's no longer creative expression. That you are a tool being used by corporate America to create a product that is going to sell. And unfortunately, this product is very toxic. You cannot tell me that a 9-year-old boy repeating lyrics from Tyler, the Creator, talking about raping a pregnant woman, that's going to make him a healthier human being psychologically. If anything, it desensitizes him to rape. He says, well, hey, if all the grown-ups around me are singing and dancing to rape, then rape must not be that bad. You know, so words have power, and I think people forget about that. They try to say that it's only music, but people don't understand that. I mean, the Nazi movement started with words. I mean, you know, McCarthyism began with a few words. You know, wars have begun over words, so words are very powerful. And right now, the power of hip hop, it's like a loaded gun that we were using to point at our oppressor, and that gun has been turned back on us, and it's using to oppress us, or it's being used to oppress us and to kill us. So, Yvette, I'll let you get the last word on this. You know, what do you think, you know, people can go from here? You know, so far we've had, you know, tens of thousands of people that read my article about it, and I'm going to support the boycott and all these other things. I mean, do you think that there's anything else that black people can do to kind of fight against some of this stuff?
Let me just say, if black people, let me just say something. If black people really want to get behind something that stops this from happening, you have to look at where, and I'm not saying all of these people come from poor neighborhoods. Not all of them do. You know, you have rappers, Ludacris and others, who come from well-to-do neighborhoods, but you'll see that some of them, you know, you've always had that. There's no monolithic rapper. Not all rappers come from poverty. Not all rappers come from that. But if you really want to prevent this type of hip hop, you really have to go to the source of the whole thing, which is desperation for money. You have these groups of guys who are desperate to make money because they come out of, a lot of them, poverty-stricken neighborhoods. So really what you want to tackle is poverty. You know, you can't tackle just, it's fine right now, and I'm perfectly on board with boycotting Mountain Dew, because Mountain Dew is just they're just predators. They're trying to take away, and they're pariahs. They just want to take what they can and get what they can, and they don't care who gets killed, who gets hurt in the process. But you have to look at what causes this kind of desperation that says, hey, I'll say anything, I'll do anything just to get some money. Like, that is structural poverty. That is a system that we live in where the wealth isn't passed around, where the wealth is calcified at the very top of the system. And in order to take that on, you need a political movement in this country. And, you know, part of the problem is that we don't have any political movement in this country. We don't have a working people's movement. We don't have anything. We're just a bunch of people out here, you know, and then, you know, even when we try to have movements, you know, we can't have a big, broad movement because we're so busy talking about, you know, you have some feminists over here, then you have a few black people over here, and then you have, you know, the white guy in the middle who's working class, but he doesn't want to be associated with black people. So we can't ever put together a real movement to challenge poverty, which really kind of, to me, underlies this whole thing. You have a bunch of rappers who like, I'll go and say whatever I gotta say in this corporate studio and just say, you know, if you tell me to kill somebody, whatever. If you tell me I gotta do this, whatever. Because I don't have a future over here. I'm never gonna go to college. I don't have no money for that. You know, I live in the hood. I don't even have a good education. But I can rap about a Bentley. I can rap about popping somebody in the head. So I think a lot of that kind of comes from a place of desperation. I think you have to take that away.
I agree with you. I think that we definitely have to fight poverty. We know poverty has gotten worse over the last few years. We know that the racial wealth gap has grown. We know that the gap between the rich and the poor has grown. And I think that really the culprit, in addition to poverty, really is also greed. We got to remember that not every rapper that we hear on the radio saying ignorant stuff is doing it because he's trying to feed his family. You got guys who
after a while they get addicted to it.
Right. You have guys that have millions of dollars that are saying these things too. I doubt that Tyler, the Creator, is struggling right now, and I think that what really drives him or anybody else to just say the most ignorant stuff that they need to say, like Lil Wayne, is, I think a broken, busted value system. That pretty much says that money is the most important thing you can ever attain. That basically, if you believe that your principles are more important than your bank account, then you are a damn fool. And so to me, I understand. I can have more empathy for a guy or a woman who is desperate, who is willing to make some moral compromises in order to get what they need. But I don't have a lot of sympathy for somebody who's doing quite well, who has a choice, who can still be ambitious, who can go out and make great records without, talk about raping pregnant women. I mean, why not replace that verse with something else that's equally hot? You see what I mean? Like, you don't have to rap about raping pregnant women and shooting people in the head to sell a record. So that's my thing.
But it's a race to the bottom now.
Well, it's a race.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's a race to the bottom now. Like, how good of a record you can put out is like how depraved you can be. Like, I can be more depraved than you. I can say something nastier and grimier and more gutter than you, because in their minds, they're all thugs. And thugs don't have any value system. The ethos to being a thug is that you can say anything, do anything, and not feel any regrets. And so I think you're right. It is a busted value system. There's no hierarchy of values. It's like, I'm going to do whatever makes money, and whoever don't like it, whatever.
Right. So I think that the value system really, it's something that affects all of our society. I mean, it's greed that's ultimately destroying America economically, because we allow wealthy people to say we'll let people starve or we'll let people die with no health insurance because we don't want to pay an extra 1% in our taxes, even though I'm making millions of dollars a year, whatever, and I think that, so the greed is not just amongst, people in the hip hop music industry. I just think that overall, what we have to understand is that you can make your money, you can be successful, you can make hot albums and still be conscientious. Maybe instead of selling 10 million albums, you sell 8.5 million, but you still can at least say you can at least sleep at night knowing that you're not encouraging young children to go out and kill each other, and so I think that that's kind of where we need to go. I think we have to hold Mountain Dew accountable. I think we have to hold record labels accountable. We also have to hold artists accountable. I don't believe in letting an artist off the hook, because they are the ones who are choosing to put out the kind of music they're putting out. I guarantee you, for example, that Rick Ross will not at any point in the near or distant future make another song mentioning date rape, because when they took that $3-4 million out of his pocket for Reebok, that got his attention. And unfortunately, that's the other thing about money. I talk about money all the time. I mean, that's my field in as finance. And one thing I know is that when you see somebody that worships money, you know how to get their attention. You pretty much know what's going to wake them up. And with Rick Ross, you can't wake him up. It's sad to me that you can't wake up a lot of artists by talking about dead children. You can't wake them up by talking about what you're doing to your community. You can't talk about how you're degrading the imagery of what it means to be a black man, because they don't have any of that. Nobody taught them the value, the importance of sustaining and supporting your community. But you take away that money, then suddenly it straightens him up. So in my opinion, whatever it takes to make some ignorant fool wake up and realize what he's doing to the community, we have to do it, because ultimately we got to protect our kids. We can't let little 9-year-old boys and girls grow up hearing those kinds of messages.
You're exactly right. And I just want to say one last thing. You brought up Kirsten West Savili earlier, and I just want to say, part of the problem too is that we don't have enough Kirsten West Savilis who are teaching, and writing about. Is it Savili or Savali? I thought it was Savali. Savali. We don't have enough black women who are writing about how this sort of thing impacts black women, and teaching, a lot of black girls that, hey, you're really not a bitch, you're not a slut, and you shouldn't want yourself to be called in those names. So, I really think that, if we had more women writers who were really writing on this sort of tip and really kind of putting that out there, black female writers, that would help too.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I mean, Kirsten is she's really in a league of her own. I put her ahead of pretty much every black female commentator I can think of, right there next to you. And both of you in my mind, are ahead of pretty much everybody. I can't think of anybody that's really there. I mean, even when I think about people like Melissa Harris Perry and Kelly Goff, I mean, they're on television, but when I'm looking for something that's real and very powerful, I read your stuff or I read Kirsten's stuff, and it's sad. We should have an army of women like that. And it's sad to me also that you've had rappers calling black women bitches and hoes for the last 20 years, but it took white feminists to step up to actually get this corrected, and that means that we didn't do enough as black people to defend our own interests. Black men didn't step up and defend black women, and black women aren't stepping up to defend themselves. And so I think that we have to go back to 2004 with Spelman, when Spelman stood up and told Nelly that you're not coming to our campus, swiping credit cards through a woman's butt. Nelly changed his tune. And I think that we need more of that in order to really counter what's happening to our culture. This is not our culture. And so, as far as I'm concerned, Tyler, the Creator, can go to hell. That's my two cents. I mean, I love hip hop. I love, my brothers and all that, but Tyler, the Creator, if you're talking about raping pregnant women and sending black men to prison and all these other things, you're not a brother of mine. So thank you very much, Yvette. I really appreciate your time.
No problem.
Thank you all for checking us out at yourblackworld.com. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.